Have you ever wondered what would happen if the world woke up tomorrow to a zombie apocalypse? We're not talking about movies or video games, but about what could happen in real life if such an infection were spread. The concept of zombies appears in ancient myths, especially in Haiti, linked to voodoo. But in the 20th century, science fiction took it to another level. Infected human beings without conscience, with only one instinct to devour. Now, how realistic would such a scenario be? Some scientists say that a zombie infection could occur if a virus mutated and attacked the brain, something similar to rabies but much more aggressive. Fungi like Ophiocordyceps already exist in nature, which controls insects and turns them into biological slaves. If something like this were to affect humans, the result would be very similar to a zombie apocalypse. Day 1, the outbreak. 1 infected person in a hospital. Then 2, then 10. The spread would be so rapid that governments wouldn't have time to react. First weeks, chaos. The largest cities would collapse. Transportation, energy, communication, everything would collapse. The fear would be worse than the infection itself. Months later, survival. Survivors would split into small groups, seeking resources and safety. Empty supermarkets, the disappearance of law, and the constant danger of zombies and other humans. The United States and Europe would be the first to fall. Their densely populated cities, constant air and ground transportation, and reliance on centralized systems will allow the virus to spread in a matter of days. Imagine New York, Paris, or London filled with zombies, a nightmare with no way out. China and India would suffer even worse. High population density would make it impossible to contain the outbreak. Entire cities would become dead zones. Russia might be able to resist a little longer thanks to its remote areas and low temperatures, which would hinder its spread. But in Moscow or St. Petersburg, the story would be the same as in the West. Latin America and Africa would have an advantage in rural areas, lower density and greater contact with nature. However, their major capital cities would fall quickly. Remote islands, such as Iceland, New Zealand, or some in the Pacific, would likely be the safest places. Natural isolation and low population would reduce the risk. Mountainous or jungle regions would also offer a chance, provided the group could produce food and defend itself. In general, places far from large cities would be the key. Fewer zombies, more natural resources, and a greater chance of starting over. Humanity would go from being the dominant species to one more struggling to survive. Cities would be left in ruins. Nature would reclaim the spaces. And perhaps, after decades, a new social order would emerge among the few that remained. A zombie apocalypse may sound like a fantasy, but it actually forces us to think. How prepared are we for a global catastrophe? The fragility of society is clear. All it takes is one virus, one chaos, for everything to change. So, if the alarm goes off tomorrow, would you be ready to survive? This we still don't know. The best place to let your brain be devoured by curious facts.